The CEO invited the cleaning lady as a joke, but she walked in like a queen, and he fell in love instantly. She was invisible in that mansion. No one noticed her. No one thanked her. Until one night, the billionaire CEO invited the cleaning lady to his elite gala as a joke. But when she walked in, wearing a simple red dress and a calm fire in her eyes, the entire room fell silent. And for the first time in his life, he couldn't look away. It was meant to humiliate her. Instead, it changed everything. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. The music was soft, the marble floors gleamed, and the smell of imported cigars lingered in the air like arrogance. Nathan Carter leaned back in his leather chair, a whiskey glass in one hand, his tailored suit barely wrinkled after a long day of closing million-dollar deals. Laughter bounced around the private lounge of his mansion as his friends, a circle of CEOs, influencers, and trust fund elites, sipped rare wine and traded stories as if the world belonged to them. It usually did. And in that room, so did everyone else, except Isabel. She wasn't even a thought. Somewhere downstairs, Isabel wiped away the last fingerprint from the glass banister, her hands raw from scrubbing floors that would be dirty again by morning. She moved like a shadow, fast, silent, forgettable. She knew which lights not to turn on to avoid being seen, which doors to knock before entering, which people to avoid eye contact with. Especially Nathan. He was everything she wasn't. Loud, seen, powerful. She didn't envy him. She just knew he existed in a different universe. One where no one asked how she got home after midnight shifts or how her daughter Sophia was doing in school. That night, as Isabel stepped into the kitchen to return her cleaning supplies, she heard her name. Laughter. A man's voice, Nathan's, said with a careless chuckle, "What if we invited the cleaning lady to the gala?" The room roared. One of his friends added, "She might sweep the dance floor." "Better warn the chefs. She might think the buffet is for her." Another burst of laughter. A joke, obviously, but the kind that stings like salt in an old wound. Behind the wall, Isabel froze. She wasn't surprised, just tired. Tired of being the joke. Tired of pretending not to hear. But then, something strange happened. Nathan said, "Actually, send her the invite. I'm curious." Silence. "Come on, it'll be funny," he added, grinning. "Let's see if she shows up." The others shrugged. Why not? The next day, Isabel found a thick white envelope on her locker, placed awkwardly on top of her folded apron. The Carter Enterprises emblem was pressed into the wax seal. Her fingers hesitated. She opened it. It was real. A golden invite to the annual Carter Foundation Gala. The one every A-lister in the city begged to be invited to. Formal dress, black tie, RSVP required. She stared at it for a long time, her hands trembling. She knew what this was. She knew the joke. But something in her chest, something that had been asleep for years, stirred. That night, after putting Sophia to bed, Isabel opened the only drawer in her apartment that she never touched. Inside, wrapped in a soft cloth, was a red dress. Not flashy, not expensive, but beautiful. She had worn it only once, back when her life looked different, before she lost her husband, before she had to clean houses to survive, before she forgot what it felt like to walk into a room and own it. She held the dress up to her body and looked in the mirror. Her reflection didn't laugh. It remembered. Saturday night came fast. The gala buzzed with camera flashes, diamonds, and empty compliments. Champagne flowed like water. and every guest arrived with the silent mission to be seen and envied. Nathan, as usual, was the center of the room. His tuxedo fit like it was made for him, his smile effortless. But something about the night felt dull, predictable, until the main doors opened. Just before she stepped through, Isabel paused outside, hidden from view. She closed her eyes, one deep breath. She adjusted the strap of her red dress, lifted her chin, and walked forward. And then, silence. All eyes turned. There she was, Isabel. Not in uniform, not with her hair tied back, in a red dress that caught the light just enough, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. No makeup, no jewelry, no designer label, but she walked in like a queen, like the building was hers and everyone else had forgotten. Nathan's glass paused halfway to his lips. He forgot how to blink. For a moment, he didn't even recognize her. And when he did, his chest tightened, not with embarrassment, but with something much stranger. Awe. Isabel didn't look at him. She didn't look at anyone for too long. She walked straight to the bar, her back straight, her steps calm. People whispered. Someone laughed, quietly. She didn't flinch. Nathan moved toward her, almost without thinking, as if gravity had changed its rules. He reached her just as she set her empty champagne glass down. "You came," he said. She turned to face him, her eyes clear. "You invited me." There was no anger in her voice, no sarcasm, just truth. Nathan swallowed hard. "Did you think I wouldn't?" she asked gently. He didn't answer, because, honestly, he didn't. No one had. No one thought the cleaning lady would dare walk into a room full of wolves. And yet, here she was. Across the room, one of Nathan's friends whispered, "Okay, now this is interesting." But Nathan wasn't listening to them anymore. He was looking at Isabel, really looking. And for the first time, he felt small in his own world. For the first time in a long time, Nathan Carter didn't know what to say. That didn't happen often. He had closed billion-dollar deals with a smirk, talked down boardrooms, convinced investors with a handshake and a grin. But now, standing in front of the woman he had once called invisible, the woman he mocked, he felt the heat rise in his neck. And it wasn't from the whiskey. Isabel was watching the room like she didn't need it to like her. That confidence, it wasn't loud. It didn't try. It just was. And that unsettled him more than he cared to admit. "Would you like to sit?" Nathan asked, gesturing toward a lounge area near the tall windows. Isabel gave him a small smile. "I'm not here to sit." He blinked. "No?" "I'm here to be seen," she said softly, just once. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could say anything, she turned and walked away, slowly, purposefully, toward the crowd. And Nathan followed. Everywhere she walked, heads turned. Not because she was loud, not because she demanded attention, because she didn't. She moved through the crowd with grace, like she belonged there. And everyone who doubted it suddenly started doubting themselves instead. Nathan's friends watched from a distance. The joke wasn't funny anymore. One of them muttered, "Did she always look like that?" Nathan didn't answer, because he didn't know. He'd seen Isabel before, countless times, probably, cleaning the staircase, washing the glass walls, quiet, invisible. But he'd never seen her, not like this. At the buffet table, an older woman approached Isabel. Her tone was polite, but laced with something sour. "I don't believe we've met," she said. "What's your name, dear, and who invited you?" Isabel looked her in the eye, calm. My name is Isabel Hart, and I was invited by the man who owns this house." The woman blinked, caught off guard. Isabel added, "But I didn't come for him. I came for me." And then, as gracefully as she arrived, she moved on, leaving behind a silence louder than words. Nathan had watched the whole thing. Something inside him twisted. And for once, it wasn't pride. It was guilt. He finally caught up to her near the balcony. "Isabel," he began. She didn't turn. "I'm sorry." Now she turned. For the first time that night, her eyes softened. Not with forgiveness, but with something deeper. Surprise. She didn't expect that. Neither did he. She nodded slowly. "Thank you." They stood there for a moment, looking out at the city lights. The air between them was quiet, but full of unspoken thoughts. "Why did you come?" Nathan asked. She thought for a moment, then answered, "Because my daughter asked me if I'd ever go to a party where people wore dresses like in the movies. And I realized I had nothing to tell her. No stories, just silence." Nathan stared at her, caught between admiration and shame. "She's 12, Isabel added. She still believes in magic. And I wanted to remind myself what it felt like too. Just once." He didn't know what to say. He felt like anything he said would come out wrong. So instead, he asked, "What's her name?" "Sophia." There was a pause. "You talk about her like she's your whole world," he said quietly. "She is." Nathan nodded. "I'd like to meet her someday." Isabel gave a small smile. Not warm, but not cold either. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," she said, a hint of playfulness in her voice. And for a brief second, Nathan laughed. Really laughed. Not the polished, practiced laugh he used at business dinners. This one was real. Surprised? Honest? He hadn't felt that in years. Inside the ballroom, a new song began. Slower, softer. A few couples began to dance. Nathan looked back toward the music, then at Isabel. "Would you dance with me?" She hesitated. Not because she didn't want to, but because she wasn't sure she was ready to be that visible. And then she nodded. They stepped onto the dance floor, unnoticed at first. Just another couple. But within seconds, all eyes turned. Because Nathan Carter didn't dance. Not at these things. He mingled. He made connections. He made deals. But tonight, he was dancing. With the cleaning lady. And he wasn't laughing. He was lost in it. Lost in her. Isabel didn't dance like a trained performer. She moved like someone who hadn't danced in years, but remembered how good it felt, her hand in his, her eyes steady. Nathan held her gently, almost protectively. He didn't care about the looks. For the first time, he didn't care about his image. He just didn't want the song to end. But it did. And the silence after was almost heavier than the music. A woman in a glittering gold dress leaned toward her husband and whispered, "Maybe this isn't a joke after all." Someone else said, "Is she an actress? Did he hire her for publicity?" But Nathan wasn't listening. He turned to Isabel and asked, "Can I drive you home?" She looked at him, really looked at him, as if trying to decide what kind of man he truly was. Then she said, "No." Nathan blinked. "No? I didn't come here to leave with you, Nathan." She stepped back slowly. "I came here to remind myself that I'm still me, that I'm still someone outside of this uniform, that I can walk into a room and choose not to disappear." Nathan's mouth opened, but again, no words came. "You invited me as a joke," she continued. "But tonight, I was not the one who looked small." She turned and walked toward the exit, calm, steady. The red dress swayed with every step, and Nathan stood in the center of the crowd, surrounded by people. but more alone than he'd ever been. Nathan didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in the same leather chair from the party, long after the music had stopped and the guests had gone. The marble floors were still shining, but she was gone. Isabel. He said her name out loud once, just to see how it felt in the empty room. It echoed back, softer. He had never met someone like her, and that terrified him more than he wanted to admit. Because the truth was brutal in its simplicity. She didn't need him. She never did. And maybe that's what drew him to her in the first place. By Monday, the story of the mystery woman at the Carter Gala had made the rounds on social media. Whispers, photos, headlines. People speculated. Was she a secret heiress? A marketing stunt? A lost flame? No one guessed the truth. That she cleaned the very floors she walked across in red heels. That she had no stylist, no PR team, just strength and a reason. Nathan walked into the office later than usual that morning, his assistant, Mia, jogging beside him with a tablet full of news clippings. "You're trending," she said. "Again." He sighed, already exhausted. "What now?" She turned the screen to face him. A grainy photo from the gala. Him, dancing. Her, in red. The headline read, "Who is the woman who stole the room and the billionaire's heart?" Mia raised an eyebrow. "I didn't know you danced." "I didn't," he said, "until that night." She gave him a long look. "You like her." He didn't answer, but the way he looked away said enough. Meanwhile, across town, Isabel stood at the bus stop with Sophia, the wind lifting her hair gently as she adjusted her daughter's scarf. "Mama," Sophia whispered, "were you scared?" "Of what?" Isabel smiled. "Of going to that fancy party, with all the rich people." Isabel paused. "I was terrified," she admitted, "but I went anyway." Sophia looked up at her, eyes wide. "You looked like a movie star. The red dress made you look like someone else." Isabel knelt down. "I didn't wear it to look different," she said. "I wore it to remember who I was, who I still am." Sophia wrapped her arms around her mother's neck. "I'm glad you didn't disappear, Mama." Isabel held her tighter than usual. That afternoon, Nathan did something he hadn't done in years. He went digging through the company's old internal archives, something only a few department heads ever accessed. He was trying to find donor records for an upcoming gala. But what he found instead stopped him cold. A digital scan, black and white. A girl in a dress, the same one Isabel would later wear to the gala. He didn't need color to know it was red. Smiling like the world hadn't touched her yet. Her eyes. He knew those eyes. It was Isabel. He clicked for details. The photo was dated over 15 years ago, tagged in a company album from a construction site celebration, back when the company used to hold family events for its workers. Employee, Marcus Hart. Position, lead site engineer. Isabel's husband. Nathan leaned back in his chair, the photo still glowing on the screen. She hadn't mentioned that her husband once worked for Carter Enterprises, but somehow it didn't surprise him. She had always been part of something bigger. He just hadn't seen it, until now. Isabel was folding laundry when she heard the knock. She opened the door to find Nathan Carter standing there. Alone. No driver, no flowers. Just him holding a small envelope. Her eyes narrowed. "I don't remember giving you my address." "You didn't," he admitted. "But I asked, nicely." A long pause passed between them. "Why are you here?" Nathan swallowed. "To return something." He held out the envelope. She took it, slowly, opened it. Inside was a photo, black and white. A young girl, no older than 17, in a red dress, smiling. She looked exactly like Isabel. Isabel's breath caught in her throat. "Where did you get this?" "I found it in the company's old archives." It was buried in a digital folder from a construction celebration. "Over 15 years ago. I think your husband was working for us back then." His voice was lower now. "I saw this picture, and I wondered how someone who used to smile like that ended up feeling invisible." Isabel's fingers shook as she held the photo. "My husband took this," she whispered, "a long time ago, before everything fell apart." Nathan didn't say anything. He let her hold the silence. And the memory. "I forgot it was still out there," she said softly. "Do you want to talk about him?" he asked. She looked up. Then, quietly, she opened the door wider. "Come in." The apartment was small, simple, clean. Nathan sat on the worn-out couch while Isabel made tea. Photos lined the hallway walls, mostly of Sophia. School projects, handmade cards. He noticed one card hanging by the fridge with crayon writing, "My mom is a queen." Isabel returned and handed him a mug. He didn't take a sip. Instead, he asked, "What happened to him? Your husband?" She sat across from him. "He died in a car accident 6 years ago." Nathan nodded slowly. "He was the dreamer. I was the practical one. He wanted to build things. I wanted to make sure we had food." She smiled, but it faded fast. "After he passed, I tried everything. Offices wouldn't hire me without a degree. Bills stacked up. I cleaned houses because it was the only job that paid cash and let me pick Sophia up from school." Nathan didn't speak. Isabel continued. "There were nights I went to sleep hoping Sophia wouldn't hear me cry in the next room." He felt a lump rise in his throat. "And yet, you walked into that gala like royalty," he said quietly. She met his eyes. "I wasn't trying to prove anything to you. I was trying to prove it to me." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The city buzzed softly outside, a siren in the distance, the radiator clicking in the corner. Then Nathan asked something he never thought he would. "Would you let me take you out? Not as a joke, not for show, just for dinner." Isabel looked at him, really looked. She didn't see a billionaire or a man in a suit. She saw someone finally trying to be human. "Why?" she asked. He smiled, but this time it wasn't charming. It was vulnerable. "Because I think I need to learn how to see people again, and I want to start with you." Before she could respond, a voice interrupted from the hallway. "Mama? Who's that?" Sophia stood rubbing her eyes, holding a stuffed rabbit. Isabel gently pulled her into her lap. Nathan smiled. "Hi there." Sophia blinked. "Are you the man from the red dress party?" He laughed. "I guess I am." She looked at him curiously. "Do you know how to make pancakes?" He grinned. "I'm a terrible cook, but I could learn." Sophia smiled. "Then maybe you can stay." Nathan looked at Isabel. She smiled, just a little. Not a yes, but not a no. Nathan returned the next evening. No bodyguard, no luxury car. Just him walking up the steps with a grocery bag in one hand and a folded recipe in the other. When Isabel opened the door, he lifted the bag like a trophy. Pancake night. She stared at him for a beat, then stepped aside without a word. The corners of her lips turned upward. Not a full smile, but warmer than yesterday. The kitchen wasn't big, barely enough space for two, but Nathan didn't seem to mind. He clumsily poured batter into the pan, misjudged the heat, and sent flour flying across the counter. Isabel laughed, genuinely, as he wiped pancake mix off his tie. "I didn't think CEOs cooked their own meals," she teased. "We don't," he said. "That's why I'm currently failing." From the hallway, Sophia peeked in, giggling. "Flip it," she whispered. Nathan gave it a shot. The pancake folded in half, then crumpled into the corner of the pan. "Chef of the year," he declared with mock pride. They ended up eating the mess anyway, seated at the small kitchen table with cracked edges and mismatched chairs. But it wasn't about the food. It was about the quiet moments in between. "Where's her dad buried?" Nathan asked softly, glancing at Sophia, who had gone back to her coloring book. Isabel stirred her tea slowly. "Greenwood Hills, Lot 32. Nathan made a mental note, even though she hadn't asked him to. "Do you go often?" he asked. She nodded. "When I can. It's peaceful. I like to tell him what we've been up to." Nathan glanced at the little girl humming to herself in the living room. "He'd be proud of you both." Isabel didn't respond, but the way she looked at Sophia said she didn't need words. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to bed, Nathan helped clean the dishes, insisting, awkwardly, on scrubbing them himself. He reached for a plate and knocked over a mug. It shattered on the tile. "Sorry," he winced. Isabel crouched down with a dustpan, shaking her head. "It's okay. It was just a cup." "No, I mean," he paused. "I'm not used to any of this." She looked up at him. "You mean being real?" He nodded slowly. "I've spent so long pretending that I didn't even know how to say sorry until you made me mean it." Isabel stood. "Then stop pretending." As he left, just before he stepped out the door, Isabel spoke again. "You're not the man I thought you were at the party." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "What did you think I was?" "A bored rich man who thought everything could be bought." He looked down for a second. "And now?" She met his gaze. "Still rich, still confused, but trying." He laughed, and for once, it didn't feel like a performance. In the days that followed, Nathan kept coming back, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just with questions. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, he didn't try to impress her. He told her about his father, how he'd built the company from the ground up, then died too young to see his son double it in size. About how he threw himself into work, chasing money like it was oxygen, and how lonely success felt when no one knew the real him. "You ever lose yourself in the image of who people expect you to be?" he asked one night. Isabel nodded slowly. "Every day," she whispered, "until the gala." One afternoon, Isabel came home from work to find a box at her door. No card, no name. Inside was a new backpack, sketchbooks, and colored pencils, all wrapped with a pink ribbon. She knew immediately. "Nathan!" Sophia screamed with joy when she saw it. Isabel bit her lip. She didn't want handouts. But this felt different. Like someone had paid attention. Like someone saw her child. The next time Nathan visited, she met him at the door before he knocked. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I know. But thank you." He smiled. "She's talented. I just gave her tools." They stood in the doorway for a moment too long. Then Isabel said, "Come in. I made real pancakes this time." Later that night, as they sipped coffee in the kitchen, Nathan's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Another buzz. And another. Isabel noticed. "You can take that. I won't be offended." Nathan sighed, pulling the phone out. He glanced at the screen and hesitated. "It's my fiancé." The air changed. Isabel blinked. "Wait, you're engaged?" "Not really," he said. "It's complicated." "How complicated?" "She's the daughter of one of my board members. The engagement was arranged 2 years ago. More of a business merger than love." Isabel stood. Her face changed. The walls came back up. "You should go." Nathan rose, too, his voice gentle. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it mattered. It was over long before I met you. But it wasn't finished, she said. There was a long silence between them. I'm not here to play second to anything, Isabel whispered. Not anymore. Nathan's shoulders fell. I understand. He stepped back, opened the door, and paused. I'll fix it, he said. All of it. She didn't respond, but her silence hurt more than yelling ever could. That night, as Isabel tucked Sophia into bed, the girl asked softly, Is the pancake man not coming back? Isabel kissed her forehead. I don't know, baby. Sophia frowned. I liked him. Me too, Isabel said. But liking someone didn't erase the past. It didn't erase lies. Across the city, Nathan sat alone in his penthouse, staring out the floor-to-ceiling window. His phone rang again. This time he answered. Cynthia, he said firmly, we need to talk. I'm calling off the engagement. What? Are you insane? No. I've just finally started becoming someone I'm proud of. And for the first time in his life, he didn't feel afraid to lose something that wasn't real. Because he'd already found something that was. 2 weeks passed. Nathan didn't call, didn't text, didn't knock at her door. Isabel didn't expect him to. She went back to her rhythm. Work, bus rides, laundry, dinner, bed. But everything felt quieter. Not because she missed the luxury or the attention. She missed being seen. She missed the way he listened when she talked about Sophia. The way he asked questions like he actually wanted to know the answers. She even missed his awkward pancake flips. But she didn't regret asking him to leave. Because dignity came first. Always. Then, one Friday morning, Mrs. Delgado pulled her aside at the mansion. Did you hear? The older woman whispered, eyes wide. Mr. Carter broke off his engagement. Big scandal. Isabel didn't flinch. But inside, something cracked open. He hasn't been around much lately, Delgado added. Walked out of a meeting last week. Said he needed to take care of something that mattered more. Isabel went back to polishing the silver tray in her hands, heart thumping harder than she wanted it to. That evening, just as she unlocked the apartment door, she saw something taped to the frame. A child's drawing. Crayons, purple and red. It was Sophia's. In the middle of the paper was a stick figure with a tie, standing beside a woman in a red dress and a girl with pigtails. Above it, written in pink, Pancake Night Again? Isabel looked down the hall. Nathan stood at the far end, holding a box of groceries. He didn't say anything, just waited. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just said, You remembered her handwriting. I remember everything, he said softly. Then, more serious, Can we talk? Back inside the apartment, Nathan stood in the kitchen while Isabel poured tea. Sophia danced around his legs like he'd never been gone. She didn't know what happened, just that he was back. That was enough for her. But Isabel needed more. I ended it, Nathan said quietly, when they were finally alone at the table. With Cynthia, with the lies, with everything that made me someone I wouldn't want my own daughter to look up to. Isabel stared at him. And now what? Now. I learn how to be real. She folded her arms. Words are easy. I didn't come here with words. He reached into his jacket and placed a small envelope on the table. I came with action. Isabel opened it slowly. Inside, a job offer. But not for her. For Sophia. A scholarship. A full ride to a private school that nurtured arts and gifted kids. The kind of place Isabel never dreamed she could afford. Isabel stared at the paper, stunned. This is... Nathan, this is too much. No, it's exactly right, he said. She's talented. She deserves it. and you deserve to never have to choose between rent and her future." Tears welled in Isabel's eyes, not from pity, from something far more overwhelming: relief, hope. "But why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Nathan looked her dead in the eye. "Because I care about her, and I care about you. Not the way I used to care about things, to own them, control them, impress people. I care about you because when I'm with you, I don't feel empty." He took a breath. "And I don't want to go back to feeling empty." Isabel wiped her eyes, silent for a long time. Then, gently, she pushed the paper back toward him. "I'll accept the scholarship, for her. But if you're hoping that'll make me fall into your arms again, it won't." Nathan nodded. "I'm not here to win. I'm here to show up, even if it takes time." She studied him. The suit, the eyes, the man who once laughed at her in front of a room full of people, now sitting quietly, humbled. "I don't know if I can trust you yet," she admitted. "I don't expect you to," he replied. "But maybe we can start over." She leaned back. "And how exactly do you propose we do that?" Nathan smiled, boyish and unsure. "Coffee? Saturday morning. No suits, no limos, just two people. Trying." Isabel hesitated, then nodded. Once. Saturday came with a light drizzle in the air. Isabel stood outside a small cafe near the park, holding her coat closed. She wasn't sure if he'd come. Part of her wondered if she'd be relieved if he didn't. But then, she saw him, jeans, hoodie, no entourage, just Nathan holding 2 cups of coffee and looking nervous. He approached like someone trying not to mess up something fragile. "Hi," he said. "Hi." They walked together toward the park, sitting on a damp bench under a big tree. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. And it felt good, safe. By the time the sun peeked through the clouds, Isabel found herself laughing again. Not politely, not because she felt she had to, but because something in her heart had loosened. Not all the way. Not yet. But just enough. Across the street, Sophia watched them through the cafe window, her face pressed to the glass. Mrs. Delgado stood behind her, smiling. "She's smiling again," Sophia said. Delgado nodded. "She deserves it." Back on the bench, Nathan turned serious. "I'm not asking for forever," he said. "Not yet. I just want the chance to prove I'm not the man who laughed at you that night." Isabel turned to him. "You're not." She stood, brushing the crumbs off her coat. "But let's see who you really are before we talk about forever." He nodded, and for the first time, he didn't try to rush the ending, because this story was finally starting to feel real. It started with a headline: big, bold, and brutal. Carter Empire in trouble. Insider accuses CEO of misusing funds for personal favoritism. The article exploded across news sites in less than an hour. It included a photo, grainy, zoomed in, of Nathan, with Isabel, holding a scholarship envelope. The implication was clear: romance, corruption, favoritism. Nathan stared at the screen in his office, jaw tight. It wasn't true, but the timing was perfect. Just as the board was preparing for their annual review. Just as he was stepping into a different version of himself. And someone had found the one soft spot in his armor. Her. Across the city, Isabel sat frozen at the kitchen table. The same article glared at her from her phone. She scrolled and read the comments. Figures. Gold digger. She planned this from day one. How convenient. A cleaning lady turns Cinderella overnight. Her stomach turned. She barely heard Sophia humming in the next room. She barely noticed her tea had gone cold. All she could think was, "It's happening again." The phone rang. It was him. She didn't answer. At Carter Enterprises, cameras gathered outside. Reporters shouted questions. Employees whispered behind frosted glass doors. Mia, his assistant, shut the door to his office. "You need to fix this," she said, voice low. "The board's demanding a statement. The press thinks you're funneling company money into your personal life." "I didn't use a cent of company money," Nathan snapped. "It was my personal donation." She raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't matter. They won't see it that way." He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "Then I'll tell them the truth." Mia gave a small, dry laugh. "And what is that exactly?" "That I gave a scholarship to a little girl, because I love her mother." The press conference was set for 3 p.m. The media was already calling it Cinderella-gate. Nathan stood at the podium, no tie, eyes steady. He took a deep breath and faced the world. "The last 2 weeks have been the most honest of my life," he began. "And yes, I gave a scholarship, out of my own pocket, because I met a child with more talent than I've seen in half the privileged schools I've funded over the years." He paused. The room was silent. "And yes, I've fallen for her mother." The flashes lit up like lightning. "I didn't expect to. In fact, I didn't see her at all until the night I was forced to face the kind of man I'd become. Someone who laughed at the very people who hold up this world behind the scenes." He looked out into the crowd. "I owe her more than apologies. I owe her respect. And I will not let false stories undo something good simply because it doesn't fit someone's version of status." He stepped down. No questions. No further comment. The room buzzed, not with outrage, but with something closer to silence. And maybe even respect. But Isabel still hadn't called. He waited. Nothing. So that night, he went to her. No press, no limo. Just him again, standing at her door in the rain. She opened it slowly, her expression unreadable. "I saw it," she said quietly. "The whole thing." He nodded. "You shouldn't have said my name." "I didn't." She blinked. "I protected your privacy," he added, "and Sophia's. I told the truth without dragging you into the noise." Her eyes softened just a little. "Why didn't you hide? Blame it on PR? Or disappear until it blew over?" "Because I've hidden my whole life behind money and titles. You didn't let me hide the night you showed up in that red dress. I'm not going back to the shadows now." She stood there, still weighing the truth, still remembering the pain of being a scandal instead of a person. He stepped closer. "I love you, Isabel." She looked away. "I don't want to be someone you save to fix your image." "You're not," he said. "You're the reason I stopped caring about image." Her arms dropped to her sides. She exhaled slowly. "It's not just about me anymore." "I know." She nodded toward Sophia's room. "She sees everything. If you're going to be in our life, Nathan, you have to be the kind of man I'd want her to marry someday." Nathan swallowed hard. Then he nodded. "I will be." 2 weeks passed. The scandal faded. The world moved on, like it always does. But inside their small apartment, something stayed. Something real. One evening, Nathan arrived with paint on his shirt. Isabel stared at him, confused. "I started volunteering at a community arts center," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I think more kids like Sophia deserve people who show up." She smiled. Barely. But it was real. That weekend, he took them both to Greenwood Hills. He stood quietly by her husband's grave, holding Sophia's hand while Isabel whispered to the man she once loved. She said goodbye. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she was starting to make room for something new. On the way home, Sophia held Nathan's hand the whole bus ride. At one point, she leaned into his shoulder and said, "I think Daddy would have liked you." Nathan blinked fast, then kissed the top of her head. "I hope so." Back in the apartment, after Sophia fell asleep, Isabel poured 2 cups of tea. They sat on the couch, legs touching but not tangled. "You fought for us," she said softly. He turned to her. "I always will." She looked down. "I'm scared." "I am too." She looked up, then leaned her head against his shoulder, and for once, finally, she didn't feel like a shadow. Spring arrived gently that year, not loud or dramatic, just soft sun on windowsills, little flowers pushing through cracks in the sidewalk, and the quiet feeling that maybe, just maybe, life was blooming again. Isabel didn't mark the day it happened, the day she stopped waking up in survival mode, the day she made coffee just because it smelled nice, not because she needed to stay awake. But she felt it, in the way her shoulders didn't carry the same weight, in the way Sophia laughed louder now, in the way Nathan knocked at the door, not to prove anything, but simply to be part of their world. He was different now, not perfect, still clumsy with a frying pan, still learning how to slow down, still catching himself before speaking too fast or too smooth. But different. He read bedtime stories with silly voices, sat on the floor and helped Sophia with math homework he barely understood, cleaned up without being asked. And never once did he try to rescue Isabel. He just stood beside her. That, more than anything, was how she knew. He loved her, not for what she made him feel, but for who she was when no one was watching. One Saturday morning, Nathan asked them to come with him. He drove them out of the city, past the suburbs, and up a winding road that ended at a quiet field dotted with wildflowers. A small construction team was already there, unloading wooden beams and sketching lines into the dirt. "What is this?" Isabel asked, stepping out of the car. Nathan handed her a rolled blueprint. "It's going to be an art and learning center," he said, "for single parents and their kids. Free classes, meals, support, everything I wish someone had done for you before I knew you." Isabel opened the paper. At the top, in bold hand-drawn letters, the Sophia Heart Center. Her hand flew to her mouth. Sophia's eyes lit up. "That's me?" Nathan knelt in front of her. "That's you, and your mom. She's the heart of this place. Literally." Isabel looked at him, eyes wide with emotion. "Why would you do this?" Nathan stood, voice low. "Because you showed me what real strength looks like, and I want the world to see it too." The grand opening came 3 months later. The mayor showed up. So did press, not for scandal, but to celebrate. But Isabel didn't care about speeches or camera crews. She cared about the young mother she saw standing in the corner, holding a toddler on her hip. She saw her eyes, tired, wary, just like hers had been once. Isabel walked over, offered a smile, and said, "You're not alone here." And just like that, a new story began. That night, they sat on the balcony of Nathan's apartment, wrapped in blankets. Sophia had fallen asleep after painting her face with sparkles and frosting. The city buzzed beneath them, but up there, it was peaceful. Isabel turned to Nathan. "I don't feel invisible anymore," she said. He kissed her forehead. "You never were." She smiled, resting her head on his chest. "I just forgot." A long silence passed. Then he said, "I want to marry you." She sat up slightly. "What?" "I don't have a ring. Not yet. I didn't plan a speech." "You?" she teased. "No plan." "I didn't want this to be about wealth or presentation. Just truth." She looked at him, her heart full. "And what's the truth?" "That I want to wake up with you, fight with you, grow with you, grow old with you. Not because it's easy, but because you're worth everything I spent years chasing the wrong way." Isabel didn't cry. She smiled. Calm. Sure. Then whispered, "Ask me again tomorrow, when I'm wearing something other than paint-stained jeans." Nathan laughed, and so did she. He asked again the next day, and she said yes. Not because he saved her, but because he saw her. They didn't have a grand wedding, no castle or guest list of 400. They married in the small garden behind the Sophia Hart Center, surrounded by kids with paint on their cheeks and parents who once believed they were alone. Sophia walked her mother down the aisle. Nathan cried first. Isabel laughed when she saw his tux was slightly crooked, but her hands were steady when she placed the ring on his finger. And this time, when the world watched, it wasn't a joke. It was a beginning. 1 year later, a letter arrived, written in crayon, folded 3 times. It was from one of the kids at the center. "Dear Miss Isabel, thank you for showing my mom she's not broken. She said she feels seen now. She said you helped her remember who she is. Love. Jasmine, age 7." Isabel tucked the letter into a little box on her nightstand. Inside it were the things she once hid: the red dress, the old photo of her younger self, a pencil drawing from Sophia, and now, this letter. She turned off the lamp, rolled over, and Nathan pulled her close. They had built something stronger than status. They had built a family. The end. It's not always the loudest person in the room who carries the most strength. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones holding the world together, piece by piece, quietly, and with grace. When we stop to see them, we just might find the kind of love that doesn't need to be chased. It's already there, just waiting. What about you? Have you ever felt invisible? At work? In your family? In your own life? What helped you feel seen again? Tell us in the comments. Your story might be the one someone else needs to read.